is cleared up, but of course we'll keep you posted. Well, tonight, right now, a solemn remembrance is taking place for a tragedy that happened 20 years ago.
20 years ago today, San Francisco Mayor George Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk were gunned down in their offices, continuing one of the darkest periods in the city's history. And
ABC 7's Don Sanchez is live in the Castro district tonight. Now, Don, these murders happened just 9 days after the massacre at Jonestown.
Oh, and the city was already in shock, of course, from that. People are gathering here tonight to march to the Civic Center to remember Harvey Milk and George Moscone. Indeed, George Moscone had close connections with Jim Jones. The city was frightened, and so was George Moscone.
I fear for my children. I fear for me. I fear for my constituents. I fear for everybody in days like this. I mean, these are things that don't happen in normal times, and I'll be damned if I can understand it.
An eerily prophetic George Moscone. He would be gunned down by someone he had trusted. Supervisor Dan White, a former cop and firefighter, had resigned because he couldn't afford to serve. He'd gone to the mayor asking for the job back, but Moscone had picked someone else. Enraged, White murdered Moscone, then shot Harvey Milk execution style. White had been intimidated by the city's first openly gay supervisor. Milk had had to prove something to those who doubted him, those who were not comfortable with change.
If I do a good job, and if I start doing things for them, for their city, then their fears go away.
The emerging gay community felt disenfranchised, lost.
The gay community had this wonderful opportunity of empowerment, and that particular day we were thinking, have we lost that? This is what happens when you make such a gain?
It was a time of revolution. Liberals led by Moscone were taking over the reins of a city that had been run from a distinctively conservative bent. Many police officers weren't happy with the direction the city was taking under Moscone. When Dan White surrendered, some quietly approved.
They gave Dan White a pat on the shoulder and a pat on the rear end, and it was friendly.
Inspector Frank Falzone was White's close personal friend, and he took White's murder confession.
I believe he took everybody's inner feelings regarding the changes in the city not being right and went out and took them on a personal basis.
6 months later came the trial, and the notorious Twinkie defense. Diet drove him to the murders, creating diminished capacity, his attorneys claimed.
I maintained at the time that we presented his defense that he was a depressed man, that he was the type of person that could not deal with the acts that he committed.
White was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 6 years. The reaction to the verdict was violent. They called it the White Night Riots. Thousands of people stormed City Hall, smashing windows, setting fire to police cars. Many were gays, feeling they had been betrayed. Carol Ruth Silver was a member of the Board of Supervisors in 1978. White had also targeted her for assassination. She tried unsuccessfully to calm the crowd.
I tried to stop it. For my troubles, I took a brick in the face.
It was a night filled with hate, a night that would forever change the direction of the city. White would serve just 5 years in prison. Controversy continued when he was released in Southern California and not welcome. He came back to the Bay Area, but apparently the demons never went away. On October 21st, 1985, Dan White ran a hose from his car's exhaust and committed suicide.
I think for San Francisco, this is the final chapter in a very sad part of our history. I hope it's closed.
But is it? Senator Feinstein looked at the assassination impact when she was still mayor.
Maybe it's good that we can't forget it, because we then realize how easy it is to kill another human being and how devastating this kind of action can be to a city and to people and to families and to the sense of our process.
What have 20 years brought? Harvey Milk was the pioneer for the gay community. Now Tom Amiano will become the next president of the Board of Supervisors.
You really can't kill a movement. You might murder a leader, and you might murder the mayor who is supportive of that leader, but I think particularly the gay community hunkered down and dug in, and you know, we are a political force to be reckoned with here in San Francisco.
There was a memorial service for Moscone-Milk this week. Joan Baez sang just like she did at a candlelight vigil 20 years ago tonight. Jonathan Moscone poignantly remembered his father.
What to expect in life, change. What to fight for, your beliefs. What to fear, as little as you possibly can. This is what I learned from the life of my father and Harvey Milk and their deaths.
And the legacy of those we pay tribute to this week. And indeed, there will be another candlelight vigil tonight. They will leave Castro and 19th and march to Market Street and then to the Civic Center, where remembrances will go on this evening for Harvey Milk and George Moscone. 20 years ago already. It seems almost like yesterday. And it was you know, I was here then, and it was just a horrible time for this entire city. Perhaps, hopefully, Dan and Beth, we've learned something.
Let's hope so.
Okay, thank you, Don. Don Sanchez reporting live in the Castro this evening.
Well, still ahead.